The human experience, with our flaws, our passions, our triggers, our inspirations, and our imprints. If we could see behind everyone's story, then perhaps what we would have is deep compassion. In this podcast, I get the chance to explore these stories from some truly fascinating people in some honest and heartwarming conversations. And best of all, I get to share these discussions with you. I'm Lael Stone, and this is Humans Being. Welcome to Humans Being. I'm Lael Stone. It is a pleasure to have you here with me today. So my human contemplation for this week has been around that feeling you have when things feel a bit hard and you just want to run and hide. And this is not something that I do a lot these days. I probably used to do it a lot more when I was younger, but there is still that feeling that sometimes pops up when everything feels a little bit hard and I'm just like, I just don't want to deal with it anymore. I don't want to deal with people saying they're not happy about something. I don't want to deal with people complaining about things that they shouldn't be complaining about. I just don't want to deal with all the noise and all the pressure and all the things that come with sometimes being human. And I watch myself sometimes when those feelings come up and my default is to want to go to bed. That's what I do. I want to go, I want to put the doona over my head. I don't want to talk to anyone. I want to turn my phone off. And even though probably in the past I would have judged myself a lot from that, I think what I see now is that when I'm in those feelings of I just don't want to I don't want to deal with this, I don't want to be here. I think I now see it as just a bit of a barometer of where are we feeling out of balance and getting our own needs met. Because when I'm feeling good and when I am pretty centered, I can deal with most things going on. I can deal with sometimes the negative comments, or I can deal with the demands or needs of people. But I guess when I'm feeling a bit depleted, it's a bit of a sign when I'm wanting to shut off or hide that perhaps I need a little bit more love, bit more self-care in my world. So that is my humanness for this week. And I wonder if you relate to that feeling to want to check out, to just not want to be here. And I find that I can reset pretty quickly. If I give myself a few hours, I give myself a day. My husband, he's gotten pretty good at knowing when that looks like it's happening now, because I just give him a look and he's like, I'll just give you some space. I do come out the other side. And I think the beauty of what I've learned now is to not judge it. It's just a sign of like, what do I need? How do I take care of me? So that's my humanness for today. Now, my beautiful, extraordinary guest today, I'm going to read her bio because I knew when I started this podcast, I feel like I'm saying this about every guest, but I knew when I started this podcast, this woman is such a brilliant storyteller that I wanted to sit opposite her and not only share her story, but just learn from the divine wisdom that she actually carries. So my guest is Lisa Corduff. She is a podcaster, storyteller, entrepreneur, and a mum to 3 beautiful kiddos. You can hear her magnificent storytelling at Conversations with Lisa. Lisa is also a courageous woman who loves to discuss the big topics in life and is not afraid to take a leap and have a laugh whilst doing it. Now, firstly, welcome, Lisa.
Thank you for having me, Lael.
I came across Lisa through Instagram. I feel like, my life, I find and connect with all these people on Instagram. And I don't know how you came up on my newsfeed, but you came up because you were taking your 3 kids traveling solo. That's when I first found you. Yeah. And I was captivated because you were documenting that you were just kind of packing up everything and you were taking your kids traveling for like 5 months or so, was it? So just you and the 3 kids. And I just sat there in awe, like, whoa, I'm like, I struggle just to go to Sydney by myself. And here you were taking 3 kids to Europe, across the other side of the world, and you were going to travel for 5 months with some form of a plan, but also open to seeing what happens. And I was like, oh, I just was in awe of your courage and also just your willingness to go, let's live life. Let's see what could happen here. So I was in. As soon as I saw these reels and stuff, I was just like, oh my God, I want to hear or follow this woman's journey. And then I think we connected on Instagram in some way. And then I was just like, I was like, we need to be friends. I just loved your spirit and what you've done. And what I've noticed in being connected to you for a little bit now is just how beautifully real and raw you are, but what a divine storyteller you are. Because I know that's a lot of your business, storytelling. But then also I was so deeply moved by your story of grief, of loss, and just navigating that, and that's what I wanna lean into. But before we go there, that part about wanting to run and hide, what I was just sharing in my musings, can you relate to that?
Uh, I call it my escapist fantasy. I I parent my kids on my own, I'm a widow, and I get to these moments where I know in myself, I start to resent them. I start to resent everything that I have to do. I start dreaming of life on a hill with no one there except for some chickens, and I know in those moments that I need a break. I need something to shift. And I've had to get really, really good over the years at making sure things don't really blow up, and I need to really have a big, huge break. So I build into my day little moments for me, like almost every day. Because when you don't have someone there, like I've coached women for years, I've worked with women for years and years and years, and I was in the same trap of, that tit for tat, like, you get to go out, like, and you can get resentful of your partner for not giving you the time that you feel you need when you're raising young kids and doing all that sort of stuff. Suddenly, there's no one there to be angry at. There's no one there to give anything to you. So I would have to find if the kids were 5, 7, and 8 when their dad died, and I've had to figure out, like, how to take care of me in amongst all this, give myself the things that I need to be uh, as balanced, for whatever that word means, a person, a human that I can be to bring a level of calm to our house, and, uh, that's been work, but there's sometimes, I mean, even just a few weeks ago, I'm like, "No, I need I need a break," and I book a night in a hotel for myself,
Yeah.
or I book a night in a hut in the middle of nowhere, and I just go away. 24 hours can do so many things for me, and I can just breathe out, I can listen to myself, I can do nothing, and, I've it's definitely become a practice for me that I couldn't be without. So no, I wanna escape my life a lot. Like,
Which is, we touched on this before we started recording about perimenopause, menopause, like just like what the yeah, what the incredible unraveling, shedding, reckoning. That's the word I use a lot with perimenopause. It's a reckoning with yourself. It's the burning away of all the things that don't serve you anymore. And I have a saying where I just want to go live on Menopause Island, which is just an island where there's lots of little huts and all other women can come, but we don't have to talk to each other if we don't like. Dogs are allowed because I like dogs and they don't talk, so they just give you love. So I'll take my dog with me, but no one else is allowed to come until you feel like connecting. And there are plenty of times where I'm like, how can I create menopause islands? It's just like it could be a thing. It could totally be a thing.
Menopause Island. There would be a wait list for that in 2 seconds.
Think about it, to just go away for a week or two where you have all the things that you need, because I think so much about menopause is just that. Well, it's the inquiry within. It's I just wanna be quiet all the time. I have to really be in the right space to be out there, but a lot of the time, I just feel this real yearning to be quiet and to be still. There's a deeper stillness that's calling me, and if I can be in the stillness, I feel okay, but when I'm being pulled out of that, that's when I feel it like this. That's when my husband will walk into the room and I'm just annoyed at him just walking in the room, and I've never felt like that before. So, and I've learnt now to just remove myself, not make it about him. I just get up and walk out, or I just go, I need a bit of space. But I really do see why that there is that place as we are shedding and transforming to have the solitude and the quiet, to just be there.
I never thought of myself as an introvert, but I love being alone. I love it. Actually, I would say, being single for a period and all of that sort of stuff. I used to think there's no point in doing things if someone else isn't there. Like, the people is what mattered so much to me. And now I take myself off to the theater by myself. I love it. And I would get as dressed up as if someone was there. And I just have the best time. on my own. I feel like that's a gift of discovery in my 40s that's gonna stand me in good stead as I move through life, even just thinking about kids leaving home and what that would feel like. I'm like, "Well, I'm sort of glad I've had this time to cultivate a relationship with myself."
Yes. And, that's such a beautiful thing. And I know that you still are parenting with your kiddos and they're all still at school and home and all that kind of stuff. I find myself, I'm in this next phase where my children aren't at school anymore and they are still all at home, but they're all about to go and leave and do their own things. But I actually don't have to mother anymore. That's weird.
What the heck?
It's weird because I spent most of my life doing this juggle of business. So always been an entrepreneur, running my own business. And if I'm not businessing, I'm mothering, right? And all of a sudden that mothering thing's gone. So now there's space. And what I've found is, I'll just fill that space with more business, with more work. And that's been the trick that I'm like, actually, no, that actually needs to be time for you now. And it's tricky because it's very easy for me to keep working. Probably a bit like you. When you love what you do, it's easy. You just keep creating, you keep doing. There's always something to do. And I've really wrestled with, I'm do not open your computer on the weekend. And I go to do it and I'm like, nope. Like, what else are you going to do? And I've started, this is weird, I've started to feel elements of boredom. Oh, can you imagine? I haven't felt boredom for like 25 plus years, or probably since being a mum. Because you think about before you become a mum, I mean, it's so indulgent. Your time is just yours. You don't even realize, and then you become a parent and it's beautiful because it's the children and the servitude and all the gorgeous stuff. But now being over the other side of that, I am in this incredibly new foreign space where I'm like, you don't have to fill that space. And so I've started painting with like a paint by numbers. Let's just get like, it's not really painting, but I'm like, it's just something creative. And I actually quite dig that. I'm walking on the beach more. I'm just sitting and looking out the window more, being still. But I'm still learning how to, what does that feel like? So as much as I want to go live on Menopause Island, I'm also just like, this is a whole new phase of my life. That's weird.
I started puzzling.
Oh my God, I remember seeing that. Yes. Is this where we also are gonna start now going bird watching and weird shit like that?
Yes, we are. But also, like, even just the idea, I go out every morning for a walk, and I oftentimes now I'm like, "No, I don't want anything in my ears. Just quiet. I just wanna hear the water.
Yeah.
I just wanna hear the birds, the waking up sounds." I I'm here for that. I don't we don't need to feel moments all the time. It's funny. I started to sort of deep dive into the whole world of AI and understanding all of that. And one of the promises is obviously, more time. If the machines get more productive, then we get more time. And I started to think about women and how same promise with the dishwasher or the washing machine and technology that's meant to make our life easier and give us more free time. But what did we do with it? We did a ladle and we just added more, 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 more. And it's such a we have to be so conscious of that productivity sort of drive that we've all bought into. It's the culture that we've been brought up in. And if AI can offer what it does, I mean, like, it's a whole complex beast, but would we even what would we do with that time? Because I remember years ago, doing surveys and asking women about how rested they feel and all of that sort of thing. And, "What do you do with your spare time?" And they're like, "Oh, I I don't even know what to do. I just sort of end up sitting there scrolling on my phone if the kids are gone for the afternoon or" but, like, we're actually not in tune with what makes us feel good and just that quietness. And so, yeah, puzzles for me. I but I just sit there, it's so satisfying, Lael, like, have you ever the pieces fit. Like, not much else in life makes sense, but a puzzle does. If you just sit with it long enough and it reveals itself to you, and like, I could write a book.
There is some spiritual shit in that. I love that. I love the puzzle. Now I'm gonna read this because I think your words are so beautiful. we messaged you before we were going to do this podcast just to invite you to go, what would you like to share about, or what is present for you? And you shared about Nick, the father of your children. And I just want to read this because you're so beautiful the way you write. You said, I still have a relationship with Nick, but it changes all the time. My feeling towards him in death are as complex as they were in life. I live differently because of his death. I am more open to fun and adventure and winging it, not taking it all too seriously. I'm grateful that I get to be here, but it's bloody heavy sometimes raising these kids on my own. Now, I have heard you talk about grief and losing, Nick, and, how you've navigated that with your children. And I can only imagine how complex that is with little people when you are trying to help them understand the finality of that. I am curious about what gift has grief given you?
It's given me lots of gifts. And one of the first ones that I realized happened very soon after he died. So he died in India, on holidays there. And and so when we found out that he died, I mean, can you even imagine having to tell your children? And my youngest didn't even really understand what death was. So I had to keep explaining to her, like, he's not coming home. It was that's just it was the worst moment. And then we knew that with expatriation and all that sort of stuff, there wasn't going to be a funeral anytime soon. And as life would have it, he died on the 13th of September in 2019, and I was turning 40 on the 21st of September, and we'd been separated that year. And I had booked the kids and I into Club Med in Bali for my 40th birthday. And so it was their first overseas trip. We'd had to get passports. They were so excited. And and then, it was the day after, it was the 14th, we found out, and I think we were meant to leave on, like, the 17th or 18th of September, and thought, "What do I do?" I remember sitting on the floor of my daughter's bedroom with a suitcase, and I just looked up at my mum who, has just been so amazing throughout this whole thing, and I was like, "Mum, like, what do I do? Do I go? Like, tell me what to do." There was no guidebook at that moment. I was free falling, and I decided to go. I decided to put the kids on the plane. I don't know how I did it. I look back now, I'm like, "What? How did you?" I can't even remember the flight. I can remember getting there and going, Okay, I've got to get the kids through this section and just to that hotel. That's all I need to do." And we ended up having the best time. And it was the very, very saddest time. And I felt what the gift of that trip was, I mean, it brought us together. We're all already pretty tight, but it gave us space to feel our feels. But more than anything, I was watching my children going, they can't hold this. They can't hold the grief. They can't be in the grief all the time. Like, they are naturally moving in and out of this and experiencing amazing, joyful moments at the same time as, they're processing this loss. So I saw grief and joy kind of coexisting. And when I came home from that trip, his funeral was a month after he died. I just made this promise to myself that I would be available for joy, that I wouldn't let this story and this loss dictate the rest of our lives in terms of, like, we sort of get to choose what things mean at the end of the day. And I looked at my kids, and they taught me as an adult that we get to move in and out. We're not one thing all the time. We're not locked into this certain outcome. I mean, you read stories and you see statistics of kids who've lost parents and all of that sort of stuff. And Nick was struggling with addiction and, what outcomes can be for kids. I was like, no, I'm not buying into that. Not for me, not for my family. I am going to be open to joy. I am going to welcome it in. I'm going to hunt it down. And it doesn't mean the grief goes away. It doesn't mean that I was gaslighting myself out of the big feels. It just meant we can be more than this. And, it also taught me then that a change of scenery is medicine too. Like getting away has been something that I've tried to do a lot, even if it's just a couple of nights at an Airbnb with the kids in school holidays to just get away. It helps me, and it helps all of us. So, I mean, that's probably the first gift, but there has been so many.
I love so much just the wisdom of children. And what really strikes me as you speak is, and I say this all the time to educators I work with or parents, children know what they need to do to heal. We just get in the way all the time. They play the things they need to play. They push up against edges to try and release their feelings. But that joy part you talk about, it's like they're not as conditioned yet to kind of this is what it should look like. They are actually so much closer to their essence of who they are that they can move in and out of it. I love that so much that there was that opportunity to just witness them moving in and out. Like that is so beautiful and profound because I think it's such a beautiful invitation for anyone. Because people will often feel bad because they feel sad if I'm feeling happy. I shouldn't laugh. I shouldn't do this. But actually, we are both those things and they can exist at the same time.
Mm, absolutely. We would spend 2 hours in my bed crying and talking and where did he go and, all of those sorts of really big things. And I felt just like shattered in myself. Like this is now they're gonna grow up without a dad. Like it was a lot. And then we'd go, oh, there's water aerobics on in the big pool. Like just something like we'd all just be doing water aerobics at a Club Med. Like it was a bit mental and wild, like and good. They as I said, they couldn't hold it. And I thought, well, if they don't have to be in it in that way, let's just ride this. And paid I've tuned into them actually as we've navigated this. And I remember a psychologist saying to me at the very early stages, as they grow and mature, new things will drop for them about the story of their dad, and they'll have different questions. And, just that new state of consciousness will invite in, like, it'll be like a reorganization of the story because they can't fully understand what happened. I couldn't explain to them. How do you explain even explaining addiction is a really tough thing for kids. Well, why doesn't he just stop?
Yes.
I know, and, it's complex and really hard. So, I think for us also, he's still very present in our lives, and I talk about him all the time, especially these teen years. I'm watching my son evolve into a man. It's like, "What is that, Lael?" And I'm seeing elements of him come through in them, and I tell them that, like, "Wow, just that look that you gave me just then, that's dad." And they love it. And so I've kept him present in this really, positive and loving way, but it's ongoing, like, it doesn't actually stop. It will never not be a loss for them, for us. They will always be growing up, and he's missing. And, that's a big thing to calibrate to, and it's been a big thing for me to reconcile. And yet we are a connected, loving, adventurous little crew. It's all the things.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, there must have been times over these last 5 years where you're like, this is too big for me to hold. Yeah. And what have you done when those places are you're holding for your children? It is just you. You've got your own grief, your own questioning, all those kind of things. Like, where have you turned? What have you done when it has all felt just really big?
Well, I definitely don't want to pitch myself as someone who has successfully navigated this because I haven't. Like in the beginning, So he died in September 2019, and we all know what happened a few months later, especially living here in Melbourne. We entered those COVID years and the harshest lockdowns, and that was messed up. That was so hard. And I think for me, when he died, I went into sort of like a over functioning. Like, I've got to hold all this together. I've got the kids. I've got and I've got to keep the business going. Oh my god, it's all on me. And I just I went to a different level. And for sure, I was too afraid to feel the grief. I thought if I really went there, I was crying a lot. I looked like I was grieving. I was not. I did not hit that pit of despair for quite a while, actually. I protected myself from it and I distracted myself from it. And that felt great until just I was just bumping up against it all the time. Like I think if I've learnt anything about grief is that it it wants its way with you. It wants to be felt. It has to be felt in order to be um moved through. I think I probably intellectualized it a bit. I had lots of great mindset tools that meant I could just shift my attention over here, and that, I really started to question a lot of the things that I'd learnt in that kind of, personal growth space, because the grief was bigger than anything, and I needed to allow myself to be messy for a while. That trip that I did with the kids was really me knowing I was in another period of grief. I had been in a relationship for 4 years, and that ended, and I was like, "You know what? I'm just not even gonna pretend I'm okay anymore. I can't hold this together. I can't do this. And if I'm gonna be sad, maybe we should just be looking at the fjords in Norway while I'm sad.
Let's be sad in Italy. That's I mean, I'm blown away that you're like, "I'm not coping. I know. I'll take my 3 kids halfway around the world traveling. That'll help me." I'm like, "Oh my god, I just wanna feel myself crawl into a ball." That's so I mean, where I sit, because my adventurous spirit probably isn't that adventurous, I just go, "That is so brave and courageous." But it sounds like you were just like, "Well, fuck it. Like, here's where I am. Let's just do something different."
You know what? At the time, I also think I did need to be brave because I was pretty scared. But I thought the question that I asked myself at that time was, what's the most creative way I can do this? If nothing was off the table. And I mean, because I have a business that I can do from anywhere, I'm like, we could be anywhere. We could do anything. Okay. And living creatively, I would say, would be another gift from grief. Like, I just look at it all as a big adventure. Like, the actual very worst outcomes can happen. Like, no one wanted Nick to die. Like, I still am like, what just happened? And you have those line in the sand moments, and suddenly you can ask yourself different questions. I am not trapped. I am not, I am free to make different decisions, to choose different paths. And I think I leaned heavily into like, what's just kind of the most creative way to do this. And after he died, I actually wanted to take the kids. I was like on the internet, green school in Bali, like escapist fantasies. And I wanted us to just get away, and then COVID happened and we couldn't go anywhere for a while. So I was like, this is our moment. My son was in year 7. I cleared it with the school. I could homeschool him, his core subjects. The primary school were like, they'll learn more out there than they will in this classroom. Go for it. And it was one of those things where there were a whole heap of obstacles and they just cleared. It just cleared. The path was just like, off you go. And I thought, I am scared shitless right now. What, can I even do this? What are you doing, Lisa? This is a bit reckless. My family had an intervention.
Okay.
Yes.
What did they say?
They were worried that I wasn't of sound mind to make this decision. And they were worried for the kids. And I'm like, but guys, can you not see? I'm actually not of sound mind. I'm not okay in myself. I know. Like, this is the best thing about getting older, is like, I know what I need. I can make this happen. I I need you to just trust me on this. And it's funny because when I got home, Dad said to me, I was worried, and I've followed this, Lisa, and I just have to say, I am the proudest father, and the gift you've given yourself and those children, you knew, and I should have trusted you. And, I can imagine as a parent going, "Oh my god, she's a bit on the edge. Is this the right thing to do? Of course, let's just ask the question." But at the end of the day, it was lovely to get that from him as well. Like, "Yeah, good on you."
Yeah. Do you feel, because I think with grief, and I haven't had a lot of personal experience with grief. I've been with people when they've died, and I worked in birth for a long time, so there is the dance of life and death that can sometimes happen, and I have been around that. But I haven't had a big, big grief and loss for myself personally. So, I don't know what that feels like in my bones. But I think what I have observed or listening to people, we most of us have grown up in an environment where feelings, grief, really crying, howling, expressing the bigness of how we feel has often been shut down. It has often been turned away from. I mean, we don't, I think, do grief well here compared to some other cultures at all. And so, did you find that that kind of inhibited you a little bit because there was this, there's been belief systems around how you feel, or you keep it private, or were you able to be like, I know you said that you were for a while there, you were just kind of busy and containing, but do you feel like you could let yourself just express to the depths of how you felt?
Yeah. I think there's something that happens when you reach edges to yourself that you never knew existed and you survive it. I had to feel very, very big feelings. I still do. Every September, it's like my body remembers. We have Father's Day, the first weekend of September, and then we have his anniversary. And it's like it creeps up on me and I start to just I'm feeling really low, I'm tearier than usual. I'm a crier, but tearier than usual, and it's like every year we've just passed the 6-year anniversary, and it was as big as it ever was, and I keep thinking it will get easier, but that moment, it brings it all back. I start to have crazy dreams, uh, and I trust that I can get through it. I trust in myself, and it's like I've made friends with the grief. It comes in waves, and I'm like, "Hey, old friend, like, you're here, and you're reminding me how much I loved him, how much he meant, what a loss it is that he's not here anymore." And it's almost like a comfort, and that's been a beautiful thing. I was the same as you. I hadn't experienced big loss. I had no idea what this thing was and how to do it. And I think every time now I see someone and they're on the other side of a loss, friends are like, "What do I do?" I'm like, "Just don't expect them to be high performance. Don't expect them to be normal." There's like this recalibrating to a new way of being with yourself. And that just takes time. That there is literally no fast track through any of it. I just recently created grief notes, which is 30 days of little stories and reflections, and that uh, people can just sit with as they walk the path of grief. Because what I found most valuable in those moments was just knowing that other people have been there. Like, there's those little bits of wisdom, like things that people told me about what grief felt like to them. You really value that because nothing prepares you, and it's the most like, we're all going to experience it. We're gonna die. People we love are gonna die. Marriages end, pets die. Like, there is so much grief. I look at what happened in Melbourne through the COVID years, and I think we didn't ever collectively reconcile that grief. We never felt it. And people aren't okay still on the other side of it. And collective grief is a whole thing. And I think as we move through these next phases of what the world is going through right now, there is a lot of grief in that too. I mean, my kids are probably the last children who will experience childhood before AI. And here we were worried about social media. Like, what the hell? That feels sad. What's going on with our climate feels sad. We feel grief about what's lost. And I think we need to get better at talking about it. I think we need to normalize it. I think I had a very public facing job throughout all of this time. And there were moments where I thought, oh, don't be that person on social media. He's like, ah, yeah, like crying. But then also, like, these people were in our lives. It was a family business. Nick had his own e-course, and how false to be putting out there that this is business as usual, because it's not. I'm not the same anymore, but it's taken me a long time to figure out, who that person is. It's been a long, messy middle, Lael.
Yeah.
But is life just one big messy?
It is a messy. I'm like, I don't know if it ends. Do you know what really lands with me as you're talking is I really don't believe we're good at endings. We're not as a culture. We turn away and pretend it's not happening. So when something ends, we either blow it up and get angry at someone, and that justifies the pain we may feel about something ending that we don't want to feel, so we make it about someone else. We just pretend it doesn't exist anymore, and especially with grief, we keep it hidden and quiet and silent. We don't want to make anyone else uncomfortable. We don't know actually how to be, because I really do believe it hasn't been modeled to us. And we still have this facade of keeping it together all the time. And yet, I love what you're saying. I think if we could get better at acknowledging the losses, the endings. I mean, yet COVID was, yes, it was a massive grief and a massive trauma that we came out the other side and we're like, okay, it's all good now. And I'm like, it's actually not all
Day, soccer on a Thursday, right? What?
yeah, not all good. And I think what it did is what I witnessed in my work is it actually unlocked other trauma that was sitting underneath for a lot of people. And then people came out the other side not okay. And it was a shakeup that we can often go along in our lives. And we all do this to some extent. We push down the stuff we don't want to feel. We kind of turn towards, I'll just do this and I'll be all right. Yet, I don't know, the older I get, the more I see our job is to turn towards the uncomfortable. And when we can get better at doing that, life actually is easier, because we have this big thing that sits here that we're like, I'm just not going to look at it. I'm just not going to deal with it. But it just knots. It just is there. It turns up as anxiety. It can turn up as control. It can turn up in all these ways. And then we have to work harder and harder and harder to ignore it. Yet I have found in my own journey of healing and all those kind of things, if you just turn towards it and go, come take a seat, let's have a chat, and I see you and I acknowledge you, it lessens the tension or the pain that sits there, because all it's actually asking for is to be felt and transformed. And that's, to me, the magic. Yet we're so uncomfortable at doing it.
And I think that there's also this, I mean, our generation, we came up through this, good vibes, positivity era, optimizing ourselves, being our best selves. And when you can't access that part of you, because you're not freaking meant to, you feel like a failure. I felt like a failure. I felt like I'm not getting myself through this fast enough. Why aren't you processing this correctly? Stop talking about this. And yet I couldn't. And I don't want to. It's like it's like it textured me or something. It enriched the fabric of me, but I was afraid of losing who I thought I was. So I was just holding on, like, everything's fine, but nah, like, just give into it. You are a better person on the other side of a significant period of feeling really crappy.
Yes.
Because you learn so much about yourself in those moments.
Yeah.
And I think the less afraid we are. It's that perfectionist kind of thing. I want to do a good job. I've wanted to do a good job with grieving.
I'm gonna get an A+ with grief.
What the hell? How was I expecting myself to be anything more than just kind of shattered
Yeah.
by what went on? And so I think because I was like, I can do this.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
No,
It's
don't.
very funny, isn't it? I think about one of the biggest healing periods of my life, which is when I had PTSD like 17 years ago. And I went, and again, different to what you experienced with Mick, but I went from being, I got my shit together, it's all good, totally fine, to being brought to my knees. Like I couldn't function. Like I went from being a person standing on stage presenting to I could barely get to school to pick up my kids without panicking, right? And I was like, this is not me. But I had trauma. I had massive trauma on board. And so in my mind, I'm like, well, I just need to fix it. So I'll do tapping. I'll tap. I will do kinesiology. I'll go have acupuncture. I'll do some EMDR. I just was like, every single modality, this is going to fix me. It's going to fix me, going to fix me, going to fix me. And I tried to outsource the pain to every modality that this is the one, right? And it would work for a little bit, and then I would be so pissed that I still felt the panic or I still felt the anxiety, and I was like, why hasn't it worked? I should be here. And I mean, I did that for about a year. Again, like it was painful. And then I'd keep putting myself in situations and then I'd have the panic again or I'd have the anxiety again. And I just kept making myself so wrong that I should be somewhere where I wasn't. And of course, the irony of all of that, which is what you're speaking to too, is I actually had to stop running away from it and I had to turn towards it. And I had to just say, I had to feel it because I was doing all these things to not feel. I thought I was doing it. I'm healing. Yeah.
All the modalities, all of the things.
Which have their place. I mean, I absolutely am a big fan of all the things because I think they have their place.
That's the face off.
That's a lot. I remember once going to have therapy at one point and the woman was like, we're going to do this thing called tapping. I'm like, I don't tap. And she's like, let's tap around your resistance to tapping. I don't tap, right? Because I think I had tried all the things. I was like, no, I actually just need to have a safe space to actually lean into the fear, the panic, the terror, to actually feel it. And once I did turn towards it and once I did feel safe enough to actually feel it, that's when it started to transform. It was like I could breathe a bit better. I began to see it shift and it was the biggest gift. It was the biggest gift for me.
I really, really relate to everything, and also putting my kids in all the modalities as well, because I was also trying to make sure they were moving through it energetically and all those sorts of things. I'm like, the thing that
They really resistant to going all of those.
too little to really know what was going on. But I did know also that their nervous system needed a lot of support. So yes, they do have their place, but it's funny how we're just like, there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way through this. So I'm just gonna
Fix the shit out of this. Yeah.
funny what you say about like when we do just like give ourselves permission to be with the hard stuff. I remember I needed to let him go. I needed to have him be gone fully. And when I did, I did a lot of crying in the bath was kind of my thing. I put the kids down. They had trouble sleeping for a long time, so I'd be holding their hands and I'd just be wrecked. But I was so wired, I couldn't get to sleep. And I would go to the bath and there was something about the water that was good, and I'd put some lavender in and, I was trying to do things to just help myself fall to sleep. But in those moments, tears would release and it would be so quiet. I was almost with him. And I don't even know how it really happened, but it was one Christmas, just before Christmas, I was at bloody Chadston, which I hate, and I felt like I wanted a symbol of where I felt I had come to in my relationship with him in death. And I thought maybe it would be a pendant or something, and I went into a jewelry shop and I saw this ring And if you look at it, I'll never take it off, but there you go. It's got two bands, and they don't touch each other except for at the back. And so they come together at the back, and I thought that symbolizes us together in life. And then I just choose to believe he's still there, but I can't touch him. He's right there, but he's still traveling with me, still helping me raise these kids. It doesn't even make sense to, religiously or whatever. I don't, but for me, I had to let him go to get to a place where I'm like, that's who you are to me now. That feels good to me. That's something that gives me peace. And I could never have gotten there if I didn't just really go into the depths of the grief. And that's what I sort of mean about the relationship changing all the time. Even since buying that, and as I said, I don't take it off, and I don't still feel committed to him. It's just like that's
your journey together, which will always be.
we will always have made these children together. We will always have spent 16 years of our lives together. Being with him was an extraordinary thing, and his death has been an extraordinary thing. It's taught me a lot about myself and life, and I wouldn't be who I am without it all.
It's sometimes, this sounds like a very weird thing to say, but I think when I was reconciling like my trauma, I would often, when I came out the other side, I would say, I don't wish this upon anyone, but it was the greatest thing that has happened to me on some level for me to understand who I really am. And I can imagine there's elements of that for you as well. You don't want Nick to have died, and you would rather he be alive, but the gifts it has given you are quite profound.
Yeah, I mean, when we were doing that big trip, there was a moment. The first place we went was Japan, because my son wanted to go there, and we went to Universal Studios, and my son wanted to go on a roller coaster, and I did not. I absolutely did not want to go on this roller coaster. I thought there's no one else here, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this thing, and one of the gifts of being a sole parent is that it's made my mumming more. So I was kind of that, eat your vegetables, TV off, blah, blah, blah. And Nick would be like, guys, do you want to go to 7-Eleven? Let's go get a Slurpee. Don't tell mum. And it was a few weeks after he died, and my son said to me, Mum, who's going to take me to 7-Eleven? And I thought in my head, they feel like they lost a fun parent. And my heart broke for them. They're like, so who sneaks us fries? you know? And I was so sad. And I thought, okay, this just gives me an opportunity to lean into fun, mum. And so I've tried probably, well, who knows? I don't believe in successful parenting. I just believe in parenting. And it's just given me this opportunity to straddle both sides. Like, these are our boundaries. This is what our family stands for. These are the expectations. And also, hey, quick, yeah, it's Uber Eats night, or, whatever it is. And, and I mean, God, they like McDonald's. Why do kids like that? And look, it's a thing. And so, like, an example of trying to be fun mum, but also hold my values is like with McDonald's, they get that on the last day of term.
Yeah.
And so they get to look forward to it. And I'm like trying to be all loose, but hating it, going through drive-through. But, I I am more. I get in the water with them all the time. I get involved with them. We're out and about running, kicking soccer balls all through those COVID years. We're scootering around the neighborhoods. That's probably something I would have let Nick do. And I got on that damn roller coaster and almost, wow. And then I was as thrilled with myself as he was with himself. And, on that trip, I committed to just saying yes to the fun, just leaning into fun in all the ways. And that, like, well, that is a gift for a parent.
It's like I often think when we experience death, the other side of that is living. Like, and there's nothing like death to make us live more fully because we realize it's finite and that could happen. So why are we not living now?
Just get involved. 100%. It's also why, with getting older, I think I'm not as frightened of it as maybe, or frightened of even what it looks like, as many other people might be. I'm not interested in erasing signs of life from my face. No, no. Nick will never look older than 40. That's all he got to. So all of our photos of him, that will be the oldest he ever looks. I just keep thinking I want to be getting older. I am so glad to be getting older and showing my kids what that looks like as well. And I will never, ever take for granted life in the way that maybe I did before. I mean, we don't have forever.
We don't have forever. And I agree. I think there's something about that actually, well, it's the gift of we are here right now in this moment. And why are we putting up these walls, these boundaries? Why are we staying small and scared? Because it could, if we knew that we were going to die in a month, what would we do?
100%. And you can't also live like that all the time because we'd be like, you have a Mercedes. But there's that balance, right? But I think there's an appreciation for people that I have, maybe that I didn't have before, that really the relationships that you have are everything. And telling people you love them, being expressive, and appreciating in real time how people matter to you, I think is something else that I've absolutely taken away from this. Like, at his funeral, it was teeming with people. People couldn't get into the room. They were out in the foyer as well and all against the walls. And I thought, did you know? Did you know that this is how many people loved you and how many people will miss that you're in the world? And, I don't think he did.
Yeah.
So that was definitely something else that I took away from that whole experience too.
So I'm a crier too. My heart is so full just hearing you speak about this. I'm just like, oh, the beauty and the reverence of what you hold, Lisa, off this journey is so inspiring. And it makes me think about when I work with parents, particularly a lot of mothers, one of the big fears that often surface for them, sometimes when we talk about death, is if I die, what will happen to my children? Like the fear is, I'm okay about dying, but my children, it will impact them. And it's not a thought that we want, right? Because we want out, but I would love to hear what you would say to those parents because you have raised these extraordinary, beautiful humans, for 6 years now without their dad. And the big fear is, how's it going to impact them? Is it going to create trauma? Like, what would you say to those parents where they have that fear of, if a parent dies early, that's it. It's going to be, it's going to be over for those kids.
Look, I still don't know what the ultimate outcome of all this will be for my children. I would say all they have needed, well, there's been a few things that have been really important. I widened their network. I made family more than the four of us consciously. They have people who they call their second mums. And but I had to allow people to show up for us. That was actually a learning for me because I'd been so self-sufficient. And addiction makes your life smaller when you are living with someone struggling with that. That's a whole other conversation, but I kept people away. And I knew that it was my job to say, I'm not okay. The kids need more. I need more. I'll say yes to the help that is offered to me. That is not something I think many of us are particularly good at. And in widening their network, in allowing myself to know, yeah, this job is too big for just me. I shouldn't ever expect that I can give them everything that they need. That was like a freedom for me to go, just bring what you can, have that be enough, and then we build and allow people into our lives and talk to the kids about that, about how lucky we are for this person and how much love we feel from this person and this person. That's been really important. But I also think just having space, just space for them to, like, we all know that they have different moments of when they sort of feel like sharing, or that they will be feeling, we know in ourselves when we get tired, when we're a little bit more stressed than usual, when feeling pressure, when there's big stuff going on, that's when everything kind of spills out. I I consciously decided to make myself available to the children and to have a house where they could talk if they want to talk. I've been able to, lucky enough, work for myself, so drop them off and pick them up from school every day, in primary school, and that just letting them talk, just letting them have their moments. We know what it's like to just release it to someone else, and knowing that it wasn't my job to fix how they felt. It's not I it was just it's a really shit thing to happen. It's terrible. Honor that it's terrible. Don't try and make everything better. Don't tell them that they're wrong for whatever they're feeling or experiencing. I just learned how to validate it. Just say and be a space for them to experience themselves as they move through this. I think that's been really important. Um, I think kids naturally feel good about life. And so giving them little things to look forward to has also helped, like, but I would say, I have talked about stories for a very long time. I was aware in those moments that I was, with the words that I was using, almost narrating this, like crafting it for them with the stories that we told about what this means and who he was and who we are as a family now. Like, with our words, we talk it into action. They believe it. Like, their imprints. I knew I was giving them to them through that time. And so I'm like, lucky we're such an adventurous family. Lucky we love talking to each other, and which is all actual reflections, but things that then start to anchor their understanding of themselves, what this family means to them, what I mean to them, and the amount of love they're surrounded by. So the story is never over. I also think everyone has mucky times in their lives. My kids experienced it really early, and in fact, it has made them so much more empathetic to other people. It has given them emotional range that I think a lot of kids their age haven't necessarily experienced, and a language around it too, so they recognize it in themselves, in others. We can talk about me needing time out, like I've had to involve them in that, and that's a benefit to them in their life. It's never gonna be a good thing that their dad died, but I don't think that they're worse off. Which is a weird thing to say.
I hear exactly what you're saying, and I mean, I just love the container that you've held for them, because I've listened to thousands of stories from people over the years, and particularly for people who've lost parents when they were young, or a sibling died, or something happened. The pain that sits with them as an adult was that it wasn't held or spoken about. And back then, 20, 30, 40 years ago, it was like, let's just move on. Let's not talk about it. And that person maybe was erased, or they weren't allowed to feel how they really, really felt. And that is usually the pain and the wounding. Like, that was often the trauma that it wasn't held safely for them to grieve, feel, process, do exactly what they needed to do. And that was still the pain that many of them are carrying. So what the space that you occupy, Lisa, and what you are doing for your children, from a person who has listened to so many stories, I go, my goodness, these kids are so lucky to have you, to hold that space for them of be you, feel it in whatever way you need to feel it. I am here no matter what. I am holding that for you.
I love them so much. And, there's a piece of me that will always be just that bit heartbroken that this is their story, but that is not, that can be sitting with this, what extraordinary humans who get to live a life. I'll be open to this making them even like greater than they might have been. And that's also not to deny it is hard. It's really hard. Um, it forced me to take care of myself because I knew that they were looking to me. And so I needed to just even just doing yoga through bloody COVID in my bedroom sometimes to just bring myself down a notch so I could come downstairs and be, you know, just okay-ish. I think finding those ways to help myself, knowing that I'm this like portal. I'm it for them right now.
Yeah.
I mean, being separated from everybody through those years was really hard. When you want to surround yourself with your people, that was cut off from us. So I think it kind of supercharged my self-care, for want of a better word.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I see that actually through COVID. It was, we can't escape. We can't distract ourselves. We can't do everything. You have to feel. And I witnessed that in my family, but also in others, that this is like we're getting to the guts of all the things that we've been avoiding, because right here you can't escape from it in the ways we used to. So it was big. It was big. It was a big time. It was a big time. I cannot wait to see what adventures happen for you and your beautiful family next. I'm just like, oh, it's just, what you stand for in your story, Lisa, is so deeply touching, because I think and I know that you said there's no perfect, and there is no perfect in parenting, but I love that you stand in possibility. Possibility to me is one of the most important things that we have to remember, that we all have a choice about where we meet life, and we can meet it, and we can shut down, and we can turn away, and we can numb, and we can not feel, or we can be courageous enough to turn towards it and go, this sucks, but I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to feel it because I believe in the possibility that sits over the other side. And I think you are such a magnificent, shining example of that.
Oh, that's nice of you to say. It's funny, I found a card that Nick wrote to me back in 2007. I was working on a TV show at the time, and he said this line that I'm like, "Oh my god, that is what I'm gonna take through." I forgot that's how we can choose to be as we all collectively are navigating this crazy, crazy moment in the world. And he said, "You are soft." And he it was like, "You are compassionate and soft, yet strong and driven, like a road paved with roses."
Oh,
And it's like I saw he was very poetic. He was a artist, yes. And I think it's that, like, we're all on this road of life, like our own lives, and we can choose to plant flowers.
Yeah.
We can choose to make it as beautiful as we can. We don't have much control over what goes on. We really don't. And I think, there's a bumpy road. Like, I've certainly been on a bumpy road, and I think maybe who I've always been is someone who's like, could we make this fun? Could we make this beautiful? Could we make this funny? I don't like it's we have choice. I mean, that lockdown 6 in Melbourne, the final lockdown, the kids and I called it the lockdown of fun. Like, we literally named it that. So every morning at the kitchen table, we'd be having our breakfast and going, okay, how are we going to have fun today? Because I was like, well, we could just talk about how terrible this is, and they're just spending way too much time on their iPads and all of that sort of thing. My kids didn't have screens before COVID. That was not a thing for us. And then life had changed, and I thought, if we want to bring in the fun, we have to name the fun. We have to show up for the fun. And I think probably there's been a part of me. I saw it in the card from 2007. That's what Nick saw in me. And I thought that I can do that. Yeah. Because it doesn't deny the reality. It just says amongst it, we have some choice.
I love that. I think that is you in a brand.
I tapped into ChatGPT, bumpy road with roses, and it came out with this image that I got printed and put in my room, which is very ugly. But I needed something. I needed something at the time because if anyone wants to paint that, yeah, sure, I'll buy it. Yeah.
Oh, so rich, so beautiful. Lisa, what would you like people to know about what's going on for you? What have you got to share? What are the things they can find you on your podcast? What do you want to share with what you've got going on?
Well, I'm sort of in a bit of a period of transition. So I'm not too sure when this is going to air. But yes, I do have conversations with Lisa in 2025. I have explored this moment in time in terms of AI and climate and women raising children in this, and what it all means for us, how we do this together. And there's so many different things. And I think, undeniably, we are going to be living very different lives in a few years' time. We have to be talking about it. We have to be sort of paying attention to the changes that AI is going to create in the workplace, in our homes, what that means for the world. And I don't know, climate impacts, we passed the 1.5 degrees of warming. We're hitting those targets. Why aren't we kind of talking about this? Not in a way of we need to stop it, because so many of us feel quite powerless in that respect. It's more, okay, see, and this is what I think I've always done. Okay, this is happening. How do we do this best? Who do I want to be as we all walk this path? And so I started that conversation this year, but as always, I teach storytelling. I am very, very passionate about women's voices. I think we need them right now. I'm so glad you're doing this podcast for that reason, because this is what we turn to in these moments. Just be honest with me, share real stuff. I think that there's been so many of us who've grown up and just told to be good, and good girls are seen, not heard, and no one wants to be a show off, and all of that sort of thing. Is so much programming that goes into women not feeling like they can really stand and own their story and share their story. So I love helping women do that as well. There's lots of things.
We will put that all in the show notes so you can go and find all the beautiful things that you do. I just feel really privileged to know you. Yeah.
Well, when you messaged me on Instagram, I was like, oh, Lael Stone is following me. What? And then it was just like friends from the get-go.
Yeah. As much as the internet and social media drives me nuts, I just think the connections that I've made with people through it, I just feel so blessed about, because it's that, God, I like what you say. I love what you stand for. I just love who you are. It inspires me to be even more me in that. And that's what I feel about you. So thank you. Thank you for being you.
Well, thank you. But I think also that is just something really good for everyone to remember is I liked you because you show up as a real human. And we want that, and we need that. And I do think that there's an opportunity for people showing up on social media to stand out just by being real right now, especially with this AI kind of infiltrated content. So
we need, and I think this is why we call the podcast Humans Being, we need to be human more than ever.
Let's lean all the way freaking in to our humanness, which includes, unfortunately, all of the messiness and the sadness and the grief and all of that sort of thing. That's why we came. Let's just do it all.
Let's be messy and real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
What a moving chat with Lisa. I think what I loved the most about it was that in life, as in death, in grief, in loss, in pain, in all of those places, it is still so important to be supported. But not only that, but be willing to turn towards the feelings that we want to avoid. I think it really highlights to me how for so many of us, we have been taught or conditioned to avoid, not feel, repress, push it away. Yet we can't escape that, can we? And I just love how much Lisa brought that in grief, there is also light, there is laughter, there is love, there is celebration. And I think she shared those stories so beautifully around what that looked like for her children. I feel really inspired listening to it because it reminds me that, death is an inevitable part of life, and death also invites us to live fully, to say the things, to be present, to lean into the tricky stuff, because that's where we get to live an abundant life. I hope there has been some beautiful little reminders for you in that episode. I would love to hear how it lands with you. I'd love to hear your takeaways. So be sure to send us a message or let us know how this episode has integrated with you. Thanks for sharing this time with me. You can find my book, Own Your Story, at bookshops or listen to the audiobook on Audible. I even read it myself. You can stay connected with Humans Being on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. We love to hear from you, so please leave a comment, question, or contemplation. And visit my website, laelstone.com.au, where you'll find heaps of great resources and courses for you to explore. This podcast is produced by Nigel Carboon, recorded by the crew at We Make Online Videos, and our original music is created by Josh Reed. Humans Being is produced on the lands of the Bunurong and Wadawurrung people. We pay respect to their unique and diverse cultures and to elders past, present, and future. Until next time, stay connected and don't forget to be human.